I moved into apartment 3B 3 months ago. It's a quiet building in an older part of the city, brick exterior, hardwood floors. The kind of place where you can hear your neighbors if they play music too loud or drop something heavy. But for the most part, it's peaceful. Or at least, it was supposed to be. The first night, I didn't notice anything unusual. I unpacked boxes, ordered takeout, and collapsed into bed around midnight. That's when I heard it. Footsteps, soft but distinct, coming from the apartment directly above mine. Someone was walking back and forth, slowly, from one end of their apartment to the other. I glanced at my phone. 12:47 a.m. A little late to be pacing, but not unreasonable. I pulled the covers over my head and drifted off. The second night, it happened again. I was lying in bed, reading, when I heard the footsteps start. Same pattern, slow, deliberate steps, moving from one side of the ceiling to the other, then back again. I checked the time, 12:47 a.m. Exactly the same as the night before. I listened for a few minutes, waiting for the pacing to stop. It didn't. After 20 minutes, I finally fell asleep to the rhythm of footsteps above me. The third night, I paid closer attention. The footsteps began at exactly 12:47 a.m. Not a minute earlier, not a minute later, and the pattern never changed. 10 steps to the left, pause. 10 steps to the right, pause. Over and over. By the end of the first week, I was starting to get annoyed. Who paces for hours every single night at the exact same time? I decided to introduce myself. The next morning, I went upstairs and knocked on the door of apartment 4B. No answer. I knocked again. Louder this time. Still nothing. I pressed my ear against the door. Silence. Maybe they were at work. I tried again that evening, and again the next morning. No one ever answered. But every single night at 12:47 a.m., the footsteps started. I began to track it. I know it sounds obsessive, but I'm a light sleeper, and this was driving me crazy. I started writing down the exact time the footsteps began and how long they lasted. Here's what I found. The start time was always 12:47 a.m. Never earlier, never later. The duration was between 2 to 4 hours. The pattern was always the same. 10 steps left, pause. 10 steps right, pause. There were no variations. Not a single deviation in 3 weeks. It was too consistent, too mechanical. I started to wonder if maybe it wasn't a person at all. Maybe it was something else. Pipes. The building's settling, but that didn't explain why it sounded exactly like footsteps. I decided to ask the landlord about the tenant in 4B. He seemed surprised. 4B. That unit's been vacant for 2 months. We're doing renovations before we rent it out again. My stomach dropped. Vacant? Are you sure? Positive. Why? Is there a problem? I didn't know what to say. No. I thought I heard someone up there. He shrugged. Probably just the building. These old places make all kinds of noise. I thanked him and left, but I didn't believe him. I'd heard footsteps. Clear, unmistakable footsteps. That night, I decided to investigate. At 12:45 a.m., I stood in the hallway outside apartment 4B, phone in hand, ready to record. At exactly 12:47, the footsteps started. I could hear them clearly, even through the door. Slow, rhythmic, deliberate. I tried the doorknob. Locked? I knocked. Hello? Is someone in there? The footsteps didn't stop. They didn't even pause, just continued their steady pattern. I pressed my ear against the door. The footsteps were so close, it sounded like someone was walking right on the other side. Then, suddenly, they stopped. Complete silence. I held my breath, waiting. Then, so faint, I almost missed it. I heard something else, a voice whispering. I couldn't make out the words, but it was definitely a voice, low, soft, repeating something over and over. I backed away from the door, my heart pounding. The next day, I went back to the landlord and told him everything. He looked at me like I was losing it. Look, he said, I'll go up there with you and prove there's nothing. Okay. We went upstairs together. He unlocked the door to 4B and pushed it open. The apartment was completely empty. No furniture, no personal belongings. Nothing, just bare walls, dusty floors, and the faint smell of paint. "See?" the landlord said. "Nothing here." I stepped inside, looking around. The floors were covered in a thin layer of dust undisturbed, no footprints. But I'd heard someone walking. Ikneu? Primera ave. As we left, I glanced back at the empty apartment one more time, and that's when I saw it. In the center of the main room, in the dust on the floor, there was a pattern, two worn paths, running parallel to each other, like someone had been pacing there for so long. They'd worn grooves into the dust. I opened my mouth to point it out to the landlord. But when I looked again, the paths were gone. Just smooth, undisturbed dust. I stopped trying to explain it after that. Every night at 12:47 a.m., the footsteps start. I've tried earplugs, white noise machines, even sleeping on my living room couch. But no matter where I am, I can still hear them. 10 steps left. Pause. 10 steps right. Pause. Last week, something changed. I was lying in bed, listening, when the footsteps suddenly stopped. Right above my bed, I stared at the ceiling, holding my breath. Then, slowly, 3 soft knocks. Tap, 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 like someone was gently knocking on the floor above me, or trying to get my attention. After a long moment, the footsteps started again. But now, every few nights, the knocking happens again. Always 3 taps. Always right above me. I don't know what it wants, but I'm starting to realize something. It's not just pacing anymore. It's waiting. And I think it knows I'm listening. Last night, I couldn't take it anymore. At 12:47 a.m., when the footsteps started, I stood directly beneath them and knocked back on my ceiling. 3 times. Tap, tap, tap. The footsteps stopped immediately. Complete silence for almost a full minute. Then, from directly above me, a voice, clear enough that I could finally make out the words. It was whispering the same thing. Obera, come upstairs, come upstairs, come upstairs. I haven't slept in 2 days, because now, every night, the voice is getting louder, and the knocking